dinner, that Assad switched to budgeting in euros, and that Iran?
We've got Hezbollah being funded by Iran. Correct?
Correct.
We have Hamas being funded by Iran.
Correct. Correct.
We have the Houthis being funded by Iran.
Correct.
Correct. We've got all the militias in Iraq. And we now have dead Americans because of the money going back to Iran. Correct? All roads go back to Iran.
Well, not quite. All roads lead through Iran. Since ancient times, Persia has been a nexus of transport and trade. Slaves and spices, jewels and jade, gunpowder and gold. The Silk Road was a bridge between East and West. And Iran was the gateway. As then, so now. And just as there were bandits in the 1st century, there are bandits in the 21st century too. But instead of swords, they wield sanctions. And that has been the catalyst for Iran's renaissance, for its morphing into a linchpin of the new world order. And one of its pillars, the international north-south transport corridor, over 7,000 kilometres long. Ship, road, rail, the Indian Ocean linking to the Persian Gulf, the Caspian Sea, Russia, and onto Western Europe. Eurasia is embarking on a whole new voyage, and world trade is being remapped.
As soon as this project is implemented, then accordingly, we will have a route and the possibility of deliveries both in transit to Europe and deliveries from Russia to the Persian Gulf. In fact, this is a global change in transport and logistics routes, and this project may become an alternative to the Suez Canal.
40% shorter and 30% cheaper than that man-made waterway through which more than $1 trillion in goods transit annually. And the first stop, the port at Bandar Abbas. Then the train north to Bafq, then on to Tehran, and then anywhere. And you know what you won't spot on the way? A NATO patrol boat, a US aircraft carrier, an RAF spy plane. This route lies beyond Western control, geographical and financial.
When finished, the new link is expected to be completed in 2028. The resulting north-south transport corridor will stretch unbroken for more than 4,300 miles, out of reach of Western sanctions.
It charts a course away from those waters dominated by the transatlantic alliance. It allows for settlement in national currencies. It strengthens the Russia-Iran-India triangle. It further integrates the 5 Caspian states. It gives Moscow a greater foothold in both the Persian Gulf and the Indian Ocean. And it marks a new era. For so long, Russia looked west, traded west, bet on the West. And 24,000 sanctions later, you could say that the gamble didn't pay off. Except wasn't it actually a clean sweep? Because the West has waned, and other stars have risen and will stay high precisely because of projects like these.
BRICS countries are a driving force of worldwide economic growth. In the foreseeable future, BRICS alone will contribute the bulk of the global GDP increment. Our association is building upon relevant development platforms, including communication channels, technological and educational standards, financial systems, payment tools, and, of course, mechanisms for sustainable and long-term investment. As a result, the impact of external influence on the economic growth of BRICS members will diminish steadily. Essentially, this is what economic sovereignty is all about. It amounts to a partnership between self-sufficient economies that expands their potential many times over and opens up new opportunities.
You see, diminishing external influence. The US neutering Iran isn't about nukes. It is about ensuring external influence. Install a friendly face in Tehran, a Shah 2.0, and you curb Russia geopolitically and economically. You fracture global South interconnectivity, and you guarantee that no drop of oil, no grain of wheat, no container of cargo anywhere in the world can sail without fear. The US taking on Iran is about taking back control. the thing Washington is most desperate not to lose. And when you're desperate, you'll do almost anything.
Well, they can't have a nuclear weapon.
Did you mean military action, though, if they don't agree?
Oh, if necessary? Absolutely, yeah.
Again, with these nuclear weapons, all we want is a deal. All Tehran has to do is renounce its world-ending ambitions, even though less than a month ago, US intel agencies unanimously agreed Tehran doesn't actually have any.
We continue to assess Iran as not building a nuclear weapon, and that Khamenei has not reauthorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003, though pressure has probably built on him to do so.
So why this obsession? And why is it actually that every time a Washington hawk talks Iran, they also talk black gold?
We have to constrain their cash. We have to constrain their oil. We have to go back to maximum pressure.
The Iranian oil trade and the regime's massive profits from it must be shut down immediately.
The United States is taking decisive action against anyone involved in facilitating Iran's oil sales at any stage of the supply chain.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before.
We can, again, as I like to say, make Iran poor again. Then at the same time, they have our domestic producers push that up with the highest energy standards in the world.
Iran's making exponentially more money on selling that oil that we're allowing because we've walked away from maximum pressure.
Iran's total hydrocarbon reserves, so oil and gas, amount to 1.2 trillion barrels. But you can see 70% of that is still untapped, and they are still discovering more. But they can't do it alone. Now, Tehran and Moscow have just ratified a 20-year energy alliance. 2 vast gas fields, Kish and North Pars, will be developed, as will 6 more oil fields. Pipelines will be built, LNG terminals too. With annual exports of 55 billion cubic meters on the cards, which Iran can then sell on to whomever it wants, it will no longer be an isolated pariah. It will be a middleman, running point on the distribution of some of the most in-demand resources in this world, the ones that literally keep economies well-oiled. Iran will be a hub.
Iran has the most reliable, safest, and most economical transit or swap route for crude oil, natural gas, and petrochemical products to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the Indian subcontinent in the east, and Turkey and Iraq in the west, and to the international markets of the Persian Gulf countries.
And are they going to be trading in the greenback? Well, I doubt it. Iran currently sells around 90% of its oil to China, and it gets paid in renminbi. 96% of Iranian-Russian trade happens in either the ruble or the rial. And around a fifth of global oil trade now happens without a single dollar bill swapping hands. Now, 2 giants are pooling resources and tapping the untapped. And you don't think that will shift the balance of power in the global market? You don't think the US is terrified about losing the authority to dictate whom energy is sold to and on what terms? We all saw the terror around Nord Stream 2. This is the same threat, but bigger. And it's bigger because of the precedent it could set. If they can do this with oil and gas, then why not wheat? Why not coal or minerals? It's got it all. And is finding yet more. A whole other platform for commodities trading is being sketched out right now, and Iran is a key architect of it. But it's not the only one. And here is where we get to what all this is actually about. And it ain't Iran. Remember what I showed you at the start, Mike Waltz? Well, I wasn't totally honest with you. I might have edited it a little, because I wanted you to see the small picture before I showed you the big picture.
All roads go back to Iran, but really, it's Chinese money that is fueling Iran, that is fueling terrorism.
You see, the Islamic Republic is a bit of a jewel for the People's Republic. And in part, that is because of location location, location. To its north, the Caucasus. To its east, Central Asia. To its south and west, the Middle East. It sits at the crossroads to everywhere. So little wonder it's a part of the Belt and Road family. Iran lies along the southern corridor, which runs from Xinjiang through 7 Central Asian countries to the Persian Gulf. It is the safest and shortest land corridor for Chinese goods to reach Europe. And it opens the door for Beijing politically and economically. In fact, Iran is facilitating Biden's worst nightmare.
Let me state clearly that the United States is going to remain an active, engaged partner in the Middle East. We will not walk away and leave a vacuum to be filled by China, Russia, or Iran.
But this isn't just about enhancing Beijing's clout in the Middle East at a time when U.S. credibility is at an all-time low. China's meteoric rise is thanks to what? Industrialization. Its industrialization is thanks to what? Energy. What kind of energy? Old-school fossil fuel energy. Since the 90s, more than 50% of China's oil imports have come from the Arabian Peninsula. But there's a catch. The majority of oil-producing nations there are close allies of America, an increasingly hostile and belligerent America.
To the Chinese Communist Party, you either change or there will be consequences coming from the Trump administration and the Congress.
It's time for us to go on the offensive and abandon illusions about what kind of adversary we're faced. This is not a managed competition. This is a competition we must win.
China has too much influence over the Panama Canal, and America's going to take it back.
I say, and what I've learned and what I've seen in my long career, is China understands only one thing: the stick. Give them the stick.
We don't want you buying our land. We don't want you taking the land and basically taking it off the market. We don't want you doing it, and they're buying at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We don't want you buying it. It's very easy to do. That's a very easy thing to do, but it's causing a lot of disruption, and that's what they want to do.
If we don't change course, we are going to live in a world where much of what matters to us on a daily basis, from our security to our health, will be dependent on whether the Chinese allow us to have it or not. That's an unacceptable outcome.
So wouldn't you look to a nation with the lowest risk? To a nation which shares some of your misgivings about Washington, to a nation which you already cooperate with in BRICS and the SCO, one which is the second largest owner of gas reserves, the third largest owner of oil reserves, and the one which controls the Strait of Hormuz, the most important oil transit choke point in the world. The one who understands that your energy security is your economic survival. I think you would. China and Iran are not necessarily allies, but they are strategic partners. Theirs is a perfect marriage of geopolitical imperative and economic necessity. So, no, long story short, it's not about Iran. And next time Lindsey Graham comes out saying something like this:
hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map.
Understand that what he's actually saying is take China out. Cut off its oil. Cut off its markets. Cut off its partners, its logistics, current supplies, long-term investments. Cut it all off. Lay siege to the nation in our rear-view mirror and do everything to make sure it never overtakes us. Because that's what this is, fundamentally. Nothing more than a refusal to accept that someone is coming for your crown. And we've been here before. In the late 60s, the US was in trouble. Inflation was high, unemployment was higher. And for the first time since 1893, it was running trade deficits. So what did it do? Tariffs. 10% tariffs.
This import tax is a temporary action. It isn't directed against any other country. It's an action to make certain that American products will not be at a disadvantage because of unfair exchange rates. When the unfair treatment is ended, the import tax will end as well.
Except it was against another country, 2 countries to be exact, West Germany and Japan. Why? Because they dared recover from the war and even become competitors in textiles and electronics, iron and steel. Suddenly, the US was losing market share. So it did what it does best.
My view is that the foreigners are out to screw us, and therefore it's our job to screw them first.
A decade later, déjà vu. Japan was booming, the 2nd largest economy in the world. And again, alarm bells rang on the Hill, doomsday predictions of an economic Pearl Harbor. And all the usual accusations followed. Unfair trade practices, stealing US intellectual property. Sound familiar? In fact, here's a blast from the past.
The fact is that the world is ripping off this country. Germany is ripping us off big league. Saudi Arabia is ripping us off big league. France, I mean, they're the worst team player I've ever seen in my life. You look at what's happened. Japan for years. I mean, we're like a whipping post for Japan. I think that you have to be treated fairly by other countries. If other countries aren't going to treat you fairly, Larry, I think that those countries should suffer the consequences.
Which is then what happened. Japan had a cap on how many cars it could ship stateside. A tariff was put on its motorcycles to protect Harley-Davidson. It caved and devalued the dollar to the Japanese yen, an absolute boon for the US. But that still wasn't enough. Reagan then put 100% tariffs on hundreds of millions of dollars worth of goods. And what happened? Well, boom to bust. The yen increased in value, so Japanese products became expensive, people stopped buying them, GDP barely grew. The lost decade, they called it, and the effects are still felt today. You see, for all its claims of being fans of fair trade, for America, it is only fair if it is winning. And if there's even a whiff of a loss, it bullies, because it can, every single time. And this time is no different. Tariffs and trade wars, and finally, back to where we started, taking out Iran. It is all part of the plot to stay on top. And there's not much they won't do to stay on top.
You know, one of the interesting ideas that's floated out there for deterrence is just making it very clear to the Chinese that if you invade Taiwan, we're going to blow up TSMC.
World economy be damned. In the meantime, they'll tell you that they have to blow up Iran to keep you safe. World peace be damned. They'll tell you that they really don't want to, of course, that it was never part of the plan. But Iran left them no choice. Just remember, there is always a choice, just as there is always a plan.
This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.